Good day, everyone watching the recording. It's time for the Monday market analysis again to kick the week off and hopefully get some nice trades. As usual, just starting with the news headlines. I didn't find anything particularly of interest, impactful for crypto in the last news stories here. Let's just refresh this one. Overall, cryptos are a bit down. 30-year treasury yields are falling slightly, but nothing too serious at the moment on the headlines. We might have a very interesting week in the coming days. Tomorrow, 14:30 EU time, we have the inflation rate, and the forecast is 4.2, but if the actual is much higher than the forecast, we could see a pretty strong reaction of the market. So definitely be on the watch out tomorrow, 14:30. Thursday, we got some interesting events too, jobless claims and the retail sales. Those could also be definitely market movers there. And again, it's 14:30 at US market open when these come out. So Tuesday, Thursday, watch out for US market opening. For the rest, no Fed speeches or other bond sales or whatever. So that's looking like an interesting week. Overall, the altcoins pretty much all following Bitcoin. Some exceptions. Polkadot doing great. Atom, and eGold, Enron Gold, and Tezos. A bit surprised by Tezos, been sleeping a while, but now it's catching up again. If you watch the channel, I recently mentioned buying Atom and Enron Gold as a longer term hodl. That's working out pretty nicely. Looking at some on-chain fundamentals, some interesting things. Bitcoin exchange reserve hit a 3-year or multi-year low. I can't even say how much lower it is. Oh, why did it? Where's the reset button? Oh, anyway, Bitcoin is leaving the exchanges in massive rates. So that's something to keep an eye on. Miners are still barely selling, so they are expecting a lot higher prices, in my opinion. Ethereum also hitting multi-year lows in reserves, so the exchanges are rapidly getting sold out on all Bitcoin and Ethereum. Ethereum being staked tremendously, still no decline there. And an interesting one, you see the number of Bitcoin tokens transferred. You see that we had in the recent month a few spikes, and we just had a huge spike this weekend. And that usually means that there are big over-the-counter sales being done. So large players, investors, companies seem to be buying pretty high load of Bitcoin off exchange. These buys don't really have an impact on the price directly because they're not on an exchange, not in the order book. So it does correlate with the number of Bitcoin in exchange reserve dropping like madness. Very interesting one, I think, to keep an eye on. Those tokens transferred mean. Just going to refresh my charts because very high spike think the highest since pretty much ever. So very interesting. That brings us to the fundamentals. My US dollar index chart is pretty much on track with my prediction. Of course, this is very early to draw this pattern, but it is what I see coming with the macroeconomical state of the world. Probably a bit of a bounce of the US dollar, but I don't think it will go much higher than 103 before taking a big plunge down in the coming year. If this happens, this big plunge down, that will be a huge boost for Bitcoin and assets like gold, obviously. Keeping in mind, this would mean that until the end of September, Bitcoin is not going to do very well if this plays out. September is historically one of the worst months of the year for Bitcoin anyway, so that would make a bit of sense. Stock market taking a bit of a plunge. Obviously, dollar goes up, and stock markets take a bit of a pullback. Nothing too serious. I think it's just a healthy correction and reaction on the US dollar. Just looking at gold, time to update this one. Still pretty much in this true MFI trade here. Gold seems stable enough around this, just below the 1800s. I do think this was a big correction to the upside, showing quite a bit of buyers still in the low 1700s. So might drop a bit to the 1750s, but overall money flow is curving up pretty nicely, even though the price move was pretty slim. So that's an interesting chart to keep in mind. If gold does well, Bitcoin usually does too. Briefly at the Bitcoin price, we'll go into detail much later, but hash ribbon is still increasing on the daily chart. Money flow is a bit down, but still in the positive daily wise. BTC dominance still following this trend line down. You might get a bit of a nice entry there. That would mean money's flowing back in the whole market again. That's on the weekly chart. So we still have a nice alt season, I think, at the moment. If Bitcoin recovers slightly, then the alts will go flying again. So be on the watch for that. Volatility is still pretty low. We don't see the big booms like in March and February and just before the summer holiday here with the big dip. Long positions slowly increasing, shorts pretty much flat out. A bit more shorts obviously in the current market, almost 10%, but no big spikes like this before. Market cap got rejected by the diagonal fib line here again. We did recover a bit, so let's pretty much correlates to the Bitcoin price. That's a bit of the fundamentals, nothing too shocking. We did see, like I posted in the channels yesterday, that it was time for a leg down. That was last night when we were around this level. Did drop a nice small leg down, almost hitting the 44K level again. But it seems this GAN line is acting as support at the moment. I still think it's likely that we will end up somewhere in this zone. We will get another leg down, breaking this 44K support, going down to this one, and even these levels are possible, but a bit less likely in my opinion. Keep in mind that if you go on the daily chart, that anything above this 38K, even 37.5 is still considered a higher low on the daily chart. So there's a lot of room to the downside for that. Also, of the whole move up, the Fibonacci golden pocket is like 37.5, 38K. So it would not surprise me if we hit these levels in the coming weeks. But again, with the on-chain fundamentals still pushing up, just bouncing from this current 382 fib, about 44K-ish would mean a very strong up market still to come. Just have to see how things develop over there. For now, I'm very careful with long trades, especially on the higher time frames. I want to see us making a higher high on these levels, so above, preferably going above here, breaking this diagonal before I get excited and into longs again. So just to draw that out, this is the zone that I'm watching on the upside at the moment. If we break that, we will probably hit 50K again. So let's see me get this hold, can be gone. So coming weeks, days, downward targets are clear. Upward targets might be 47K. You might get a bull trap fake out to the upside before continuing more down to these levels. Very nicely tradable. If you are a bit careful, if you watch the volumes. So this could be a very likely scenario. Just accumulate there. We got the fib crossing here. So about 20 of September, it pretty much has to decide where to go. Wouldn't surprise me if we did through all the way to there. Breaking this level seems a bit the most unlikely scenario. Well, but again, don't try to predict the market. Trade what you see happening, watch your levels. We are hitting the bottom now. If we look on the hourly time frame, we are getting some reversal signs here. On the 4-hour, we had a trend reversal, blue candle, more hyper, but all the confirmations are still down. Trend momentum is dropping. Money flow is still really in the red. But on the 1 hour, we see that money flow is recovering. Trend momentum is painting its first green candle again to the upside. And on the more hyper, we see some reversal flags coming up. So we might get that little bounce we've been waiting for. It is about to make a nice, won't make a real anchor wave, but a nice trigger wave again. So just quickly looking at the TD sequentials on several time frames. See, on the 1 hour, we are hitting a 9 bottom. And on the daily, we are at 7. So that could mean like in 1-2 days more downwards activity before we bounce up a bit more. Well, the likelihood that we do will be higher then. So that is in, well, almost 3 days before we hit a 9 over there. So short-term bounce looks likely. Might go up to pretty much this level. 45 400-ish before we continue to drop down again. Or we might even hit that 47K and then go into this triangle between the diagonal flip channel and the CAN support coming up. If we quickly check out any divergences on the 4 hour, we are getting some divergences, MACD stochastics. On the daily, we are still pretty much continuing to diverge, especially on Heiken-Ashi, or pretty much equal at the moment. So this is my current most likely scenario. We're going to bounce between that 47K and this level, but we might as well break down. Don't try to predict the market, just play what you see happening, watching volumes and trend lines like this. I think that's about it. I just finishing off the trend momentum oscillator that will be added to the VIP levels 1 and 2, probably later today. But I'm going to do a separate Zoom about that one. Well, that's the analysis pretty quickly today. Well, we just have to see all the levels have been identified. And we'll see where we go from there. I do want to quickly, I added a long-term trade setup. I just quickly want to explain a bit. It's Fnac Junior Gold Miners ETF. It's available on FTX as tokenized stock. And I think the risk reward on this one is amazing. You get like 35%, 54%, and 80% as targets with great risk reward ratios. The all-time low of this one was $16 something, and the all-time high almost 180. On the weekly, we have a nice trigger wave, anchor wave, trigger wave, with the trend momentum curving up and money flow just slightly down. So 2 ways to play this. You can just take a swing trade, try to enter around those 35, 40 in this zone with a tight risk reward. Fibonacci golden pocket is just above, just around 36, 37. So you can place your stop loss just a bit below that and try to catch that move up. What I'm personally doing, because of the asymmetrical risk reward, and I think that gold is pretty much bottoming out also, is I'm just going to dollar cost average in. I already bought my in the 40s on this candle a few weeks ago, actually a month ago. I took some parts of profit when we hit 44, it was a nice 10%, but I'm looking to add to the position at pretty much every $5 down, though 35, 30, 25, and 20, if we ever get that low. Long-term, multi-year, multi-month, possibly position trade on that. I'm just gonna put some small parts of crypto profits into this one and building it up. Very interesting levels. If gold does well, this will outperform gold a lot. I really like how this chart is looking. Just a quick setup on that for people watching the recording. This is a trade setup in the VIP room, one of the trade setups. But so you have an idea of what I am looking at. It's very Wyckofian, by the way. You got your low, you got your spring. Now you're pushing the lows, and you should accumulate upwards now from here on the weekly chart. So that's a multi-year Wyckoff structure building and pretty much playing at the moment. Well, that was it for this Monday market analysis. live for the VIP members, and I will post it on YouTube or post the Zoom recording, depending if YouTube fixes my channel problems publicly. So if you want to have this analysis live and Monday mornings, just go to TradeMentor and become a VIP. That's it for today. Thanks for watching, and see you all in the channels.